All right, so what's your name and what did you do today?
Michael, I just top 32 YCS Providence with Heraldic Ryzeal.
Nice. And do you have any shoutouts?
Shoutouts to Gatekeepers, Discord, the Council, Fenrir Support Squad, Brian Chen, everyone at locals like Austin, Julian, Waylon, and then yeah, just everyone who was at the event showing love. So yeah, we can jump right into the profile.
Yeah.
So I've played Heraldic Ryzeal, and the two cards for the Ryzeal engine is 2X, 2 Sword, 2 Ice, Node, and Cross. So I maxed out on everything, which is obvious. And then I decided to include the Star. I think at initial release, Star didn't feel that strong, but as you kind of play games where you're getting hand trapped and stuff like that, this card is like ridiculous because you can get, as you're going into a board, Cross just randomly, and it just forces out a lot of cards. And it's just another body that you can search off of dual drive, so you can get 2 bodies off dual drive with the Cross if you play this card, which I felt like was really good in a kind of format where we were having to make half boards with a lot of floodgates, hand traps. So this card was just phenomenal. A lot of times I'd even side this out going second, and yeah, that's Star. And then I decided to max out on 7 Tachyon and 7th Ascension and Bonfire. So I just wanted to max out on every copies with X. And in this deck specifically, like the ceiling that 1X gets you is like crazy. It gets you essentially like, I think 7 XYZs in a full type of combo. And if you don't see X, this deck's just like a normal pure Ryzeal deck, which I didn't feel like that was like a very good choice for the meta. So I decided to like see X as much as possible. If I get trolled, I get trolled. I wasn't gonna see like engine anyways, so I felt like making that gamble worked out in my favor because every time I saw X, it was good. And this card actually lets you play really greedy if you open up Ice, because you can kind of check for troll, and then if they do draw you, you can summon Ice, and they went -1, and you're gonna end on Detonator Cross. So that was something that I like to do a lot. So I almost played Ice like kind of like a cold buy on troll, and that was really like a line that I took a lot, and that was when I opened these Tachyon cards. And that's the Ryzeal engine. For the Heraldic Beast engine, it's 2 Griffin, 2 Leo, 1 Stad Whale, and then 2 Advanced Heraldry Art. This is actually like the minimum engine requirement, in my opinion, that you have to play for Heraldry Beasts. And one thing that I wanted to do was just play the minimum out, because at first when you read these cards, like, oh, Griffin's kind of a starter, it's not the worst of drives, but then I think when you just see these cards in your opening hand, they're kind of bricks, and I didn't really feel like they were powerful enough into board, so I just didn't really want to see them. But if you open any of these cards with X Ryzeal, it's like extremely good, because this card is really custom. Along with this card. So in your mid combo, when you summon this card, essentially you discard a card and you search these 2. And these 2 are essentially one of each is 1 XYZ, which is really good into a board and immediately XYZ. So you'll actually like, it has a good synergy with Star too, because if you're able to set up Cross, even if you're under 5 summons, you can activate this card and summon Dual Drive. Yeah. So essentially if this card resolves, going first or going second, I don't think your opponent has enough resources to kind of stop you, because these are just 2 additional XYZs on top of like Force Detonator forcing out everything. So I thought this was a good engine to include in my deck in this type of format, where the goal is to really just floodgate hand trap your opponent, and then just have an extremely strong engine to capitalize on the half boards. And I think this put it over the top. So for the hand traps, this is kind of the format. So I played 3 Puli in the main, 3 Flalos, and 3 Troll. These I think should be standard in every deck. I think right now the decks are Mitsu and Mouse are like extremely powerful, and these are kind of the only hand traps that essentially force them to have a half board unless they're giving you a lot of cards, and then you have to kind of play a deck with a strong engine to capitalize on that type of environment. And Droll's not even like the worst versus Malice, because sometimes, a lot of times, like it's not like the most consistent deck. So if you're able to cut them off with backup, that's already like half the board gone. And I felt like that was a pretty good kind of situation to be in, because if it's just a normal balance board, I think 5 to 6 XYZs is like enough to deal with that. And then for the rest of the hand traps, 3 Ash. I think this is a God card. It stops these cards, and then also going first and second, I think has applications into Nitsu and kind of the rest of the format. So I really like that card. And 3 Imperm. This card actually is probably the worst hand trap, which is kind of crazy because this used to be like the best. But I think because of Lingering Bow and also like a lot of dodging spells, this doesn't function as well as a 6 card, because like a lot of times everyone's board is layered, and then like going second, if you draw this, you're kind of just like gambling if it stops your opponent. But I wanted to include this because with these hand traps, you just want to, versus like a Ryzeal deck, you want to activate these and then follow it up with a breaker. So I play 2 more, 2 Metatronus. This card is really crazy because it nets me a body, which in this deck is crazy because that's one body closer to dual drive, which is closer to X. So this essentially, I was playing it like an E-Telly and negating the detonator, and then once X resolves, like you win the game essentially. And then the 41st card, which is my brick, I played Double or Nothing. The theory behind this card is pretty good, where I don't want to give Malice a turn, but I think in practice, this is more of a brick, and kind of it won me 1 game, round 11, which I think probably warrants its inclusion in the main, but it didn't really come up because you're just fighting against all these like kind of floodgate hand traps going second. So that is the main deck. Yeah, we can do extra deck just because I think it's pretty relevant to how the engine functions. But here is the main deck. I play 1 detonator and 1 dual drive. This thing's really troll, but essentially 1 dual drive, when you make this card turn 1, it will always be protected with cross a lot of times, or Star Leech, so you only really need to do 1. And how you sequence in this deck, you make this a lot later in your combo, and if they have mid, they have it. And this will almost always resolve, so I think you only really need 1. You don't need 1 to send off X, because you're sending this card always. Number 18, Heraldic Patriarch. This is like essentially what connects the engines. Your turn 1 combo starts with X, send this card, and essentially you go Chainlink 1 this card, Chainlink 2 X, and what this card does is it dumps Foolish's 2 Heraldry Beast cards from your deck to the graveyard, and you send Heraldic Beast Leo, which searches you a Heraldic name, and then Griffin, and that kind of starts your combo. So essentially 1X when you play this card nets you 2 bodies instead of 1, and that's like already like really crazy. So yeah, this card's really broken. It's not once per turn, so sometimes like if you get Impermanent X cross negate on this, you can just make detonator, attach this, crash, and then detach and send again, and then it's like full combo. So that's a play that I did a lot, and you kind of like, I think once people kind of know that this card's really broken, you can kind of maneuver around this deck a little bit better. But at least for the event, they didn't know that this card was not once per turn to dump. And then I played number 69 Heraldic Crest, and these 2 cards. These are essentially part of the Heraldic end board. In theory, it's pretty good. Like, this card helps you rip cards out of your hand, because I do play the hand loop combo, because it copies the XYZ, and it links into this and this, which is good in half board game states. But I actually didn't really like utilize these cards outside of this one, because this card's like irrelevant, because like once you hand loop 3 and summon this card, they probably lose anyways. Scoop it up. But it's just a really good option. This card was my insurance policy versus like Mitsurugi and certain decks, because when this card essentially summons out this card, and this card can't be destroyed by a battle or card effects, and it's like a Dragos Tapelia. So a lot of times that you can just, like, I had round 2 or round 3 versus Pure Ryzeal, I just sat on this card and they couldn't out it, because it can't be destroyed by battle or card effect. You had to play Castel, you had to play Diamondo to out this, but if you don't, like, it's essentially towers, and I felt like that was pretty good advantage in kind of these mid-range decks matchups. And then 1 Ouroboros, this card is part of your FTK combo, essentially. You play this card, not to resolve it, because first like Fuwa, Droll, and like Purulia, you're not really going into this combo, but just to have the option to say, hey, if you don't open any hand traps or hand trap me wrong, you're going to instantly lose the game. And I thought that was a good option. And I hand looped for 3. I didn't really go for the 4 because 4 requires you to like essentially play into everything, which I didn't like. But if you play 3, you can play very safe into that. And I did it like maybe like 5 times this tournament, so it was pretty strong. And then 1 Dugaris. This card's extremely ridiculous. I make this every match. It's just so flexible, like summoning a body from the graveyard, doubling attack to threaten game, and then going into a Utopia double, which is pretty good, strong, because they had to maybe play it like Snake Eyes, and I think this card is like really versatile. And 1 Star Leech. So this is actually like my kind of theory with this deck, is whenever a whale gets impermed or they have like a half board in this format, like if you get Fuwad blind, you can't just pass because Malice can kill you in 4, which I think was just crazy. So essentially what I was opting to do when I got Fuwad Purulia is just hard commit into Detonator and then have this to protect the Detonator, and usually that's enough to win. And you're able to do that a lot of times because the Heraldic Beast cards, it nets you like XYZs that you can make that aren't Detonator, the Ryzeal ones. And the issue with kind of making this card is that it negates all the XYZs on the field. So you don't actually want to summon both of these because this card will negate the Detonator, which is not the greatest. So I wanted to, this used to be Baguska, but I felt like this card was really strong because Detonator's still like really broken versus Malice. So if you're able to protect that with like Detonator 3 mats, like it's hard to break and you would guarantee get turned back. So that's why I played that. It was pretty good. I made it like maybe like 5 times in the tournament, and it did some work. Light Dragon, this is my Metal Tronus target for Malice. This card's really broken with Advanced Heraldry Art because what you can do is you can start picking apart the board with this, and this has a protection effect for all your monsters. So a lot of times what you can do, you can make this card, Advanced Heraldry Art, into Detonator, or into Duo Drive, and even if they have Detonator, they can't pop the Duo Drive because you have this card. And this card's like really easy to make with your Heraldic Beast engine, and it was a good Metal Tronus target, extremely strong. So I definitely play this again. And then the Utopia double package, yeah, it just steals games. Used it to win round 11, game 1. Won me that game, so I guess I'll play it, but I think going forward I might cut this package for a little bit more utility cards. 1 Eclipse Twins. I think with the 1 Detonator, 1 is enough, and I don't even send this off X because there's a more broken card to send, which sounds crazy. So a lot of times I hard made this card like a lot, and then just crash Battle Phase, crash, and make another XYZ, which I felt to be extremely strong. And then 1 Masquerade, really good. And 1 Aggregator. This is sometimes you just have to send this card versus Detonator Cross with X, and you just play pure Ryzeal. So that's the extra deck. And then side deck. I think this is an everyone's side deck, but it's 3 Lancia, 3 Chaos Hunter. This is just Malice Hate. This is the format. You just want to draw see these cards versus Malice. With Dugaris, you have a pretty good chance, and cross draw, you have a pretty good chance to see these. And yeah, like I don't care if it gets outed. This card, I don't care if they play outs because they have to commit their entire hand. So even if they're doing that, like the rest of my hand, if I draw like playable, it's still like extremely strong. So yeah. And then I played 2 Eclipse and 1 Duster. So I kind of respected the Mitsu Ryzeal matchup and the pure Ryzeal matchup a little bit more, like Ryzeal variants just in general, because I felt like they were pretty strong decks for the format outside of Malice. And Book of Eclipse is essentially the board breaker theory, where like you floodgate them, activate a board breaker, and then summon X, and then that's essentially a game. And I actually like Book of Eclipse for 5 round 1 versus Mermail, which is like really broken. And if you have Droll, like they don't draw. So that interaction just came up for me, and it won me some games. It stole me other games. This is probably the worst card in my side deck. I would not side this card again because of how the nature of this deck functions. Like your engine will force out back row just naturally, and like your card quality is so high that I don't think you really need this card right now. Because like the only cards that beat you is D-Barrier, and like this card does nothing. For my going first cards, I played 3 Solemn, 2 Solemn Warning, and then 1 Call By. Call by is obvious. I didn't want to main it because I didn't view it as that good versus Malice going second. But I do side it in versus Mitsu going second just because I feel like being able to call by their ritual is pretty strong. And then going first, obviously, just for troll is really good. And then 3 Judgment and 2 Warning. I didn't want to play like Floods because I felt that in like a Floodgate type of format, Floodgate hand trap type of format, I want to trade with the cards that they draw, not like try to stop them and then draw out of essentially my pass to them. So I play these cards because they trade with their resources, and Judgment was extremely strong just because like Judgment Detonator is still like crazy kind of end board and a half board, so that was really good. It can negate Impulse on turn 3, which happened like twice for me. And that's essentially just game. I would definitely play that again. Solemn Warning it's marginally better than Solemn Strike versus Mitsu, because you can Solemn Warning the Mitsurugi Ritual, but it didn't come up for me this tournament. I actually barely saw this card, so I can't really say an opinion about whether that was better than Strike. So yeah, that's the deck. Thanks everyone.
Yeah. Thank you and congratulations.